People always say work-life balance, but why? Who says that it has to be work-life balance? I made the mindset shift that I was going to call it life-work balance. And every decision that I made from that point forward was going to go through the filter of life coming first before work. Welcome to the House of Jermar podcast, where wellness starts within. The House of Jermar is a lifestyle brand empowering women to live all in interior design and personal wellness. We are a destination for women ready to reimagine what is possible in their homes and lives and then create it. We are honored to have you join us on our mission to empower 1 million women to live all in. Welcome to the House of Jermar podcast, where wellness starts within. I'm your host, Jeanne Collins, and today's guest is me. This is the last of my intro episodes in which I talk about what does wellness within really mean to me, and a little bit about the House of Jermar so that you get to understand a little bit about me and my background. So the House of Jermar, wellness starts within. I started the House of Jermar based on many of my passions. First being that I'm an interior designer and have a business called Jermar Designs, which is getting folded into the House of Jermar. Second is personal wellness. I have a deep commitment to mindset, exercise, nutrition, taking care of myself, and inner wellness. I decided that the House of Jermar is really going to be a destination for women who want to embrace change in their lives and want to really look at inner wellness, meaning their surroundings and what's around them, their interior design and their environment and the energy of that environment. And then inner wellness, looking within themselves. And they're ready to make themselves a priority. They're ready to be brave and bold and take the steps necessary to really become designers of their own lives and live the lives that they imagined possible for themselves. I am living proof of it. I've done everything that I talk about on my podcast. I've done it all. I am an award-winning interior designer. I'm a published author. I'm a mindset coach, and I'm a motivational speaker. I do all of the things that I talk about when I speak in my designs. My home reflects the energy that is important to me to bring out the best of me. I eat really well. I exercise. I meditate. I journal. One of my goals with the House of Jermar is really to share with you the roadmap to how you too can be living your best life and really focusing on wellness starting within. The episode before this, I talked about what does wellness-led interior design mean? And that's things about the energy and really thinking about the energy of your spaces and thinking about your senses. And how do you feel when you walk into a room? What's the first thing that you see when you wake up? And what are you telling your body about how it is important to you based on these sensory experiences? So in this episode, I'm going to talk about personal wellness, the things that are happening inside of you. And the things that I've found over the last few years are incredibly important to me. And I feel very, very passionate about. We're going to talk about three things. The first thing is life-work balance. Second thing is making yourself a priority. And how do you go about doing that in your life? And then the third thing that is really important is continual learning. Let's get started on those three things. And I will share how I incorporate those three things into my personal journey and my personal wellness. So life-work balance. If you've listened to the previous episodes, you are probably aware that I used to be a corporate executive. I spent 22 years in advertising sales. I was a vice president of sales. I ran a large sales team for a public company. And in January of 2020, I got fired from that nice big VP job. And at the time, I defined myself based on two things. First being I was a single mom. I'd been a single mom since my daughter was born. I defined myself as a single mom and a vice president of sales. And that is about where it stopped. And if people said, what else do you do? I would say I don't do anything else because I'm a mom and I work. And that is the end of the story. And that actually made me a pretty boring individual when I reflect back on it. After I got fired in January of 2020, it was the year that I was turning 50. It was right before the lockdown of COVID. And I got fired. And I had to really do a lot of internal reflection about who I wanted to be when I grow up and what kind of life did I want to live. Because I very quickly realized after I got fired and had the stress of that job removed from my life, I realized that stress was actually killing me and that life was killing me and that I thought I was maybe happy, but I really was far from happy. I made a conscious mindset decision at that time to change how I was going to look at life and how I was going to look at work. We all call it work-life balance. It's written everywhere. There are books about it. People always say work-life balance. But why? Who says that it has to be work-life balance? I made the mindset shift that I was going to call it life-work balance. And every decision that I made from that point forward was going to go through the filter of life coming first before work. Now, don't get me wrong. I need to work just like everyone else. I have not won the lottery. So working is still very much a part of my life and making money and providing for my family and for myself for that matter. However, I can't have that work come at the cost of life. Life is just too short and I only have one of them. So my goal was to figure out, how do I have a better life that incorporates work and incorporates work that I love? Hence, here comes House of Jermar, something that I am so, so passionate about and proud of, and something that invigorates and inspires me every day is the thought of waking up and through my designs, my stories, my lessons, my podcast, my resources, being able to help inspire other people to live all in. How do I apply life-work balance in a real life situation for my life? And I'll give you an example. Being an entrepreneur, we tend to overcommit, say yes to things. My brain is constantly running based on new concepts, new designs, new ideas, the need to work in the business and work on the business all at the same time. Handle all my marketing, do networking, expand, speak, be a mom, work on bookkeeping, work on actual project designs, write a blog, write a newsletter. There's always work to do. As an entrepreneur, we tend to always overcommit ourselves, and I am no different. I'll give you a perfect example of when I had to choose life over work. So about 2 months ago, I had an event at an art gallery about half an hour from my home that was a private launch of an exhibit at an art gallery that I really wanted to go to from a networking perspective, because there was one woman who was going to be there who I wanted to meet in person. So I had the gallery event. And then I also had a dinner with a girlfriend who I hadn't seen in a few months, and we were going to get caught up. And we pushed our dinner out so that I could go to the gallery event for a little while, schmooze, network, and then come back to the town I live in about half an hour away to be able to go out to dinner. In addition to that, right before all of that happened, I ended up having to go meet a client at a construction site at a project. And that was required. We had to meet at that time. All afternoon, I was so stressed about how was I going to accomplish all of these things. And then in the middle of all of this, I also had to come home and take care of my dogs and feed my dogs. So I had to go to a construction site, tons of dust. I had to get dressed up for a fancy gallery event, and then I had to go out to dinner. And all of those three things having to happen in such a tight period of time and not all being in the same proximity to each other was causing me so much stress and anxiety that later in the afternoon, I decided something has to give. And guess what gave? I put it through the life work filter. And what gave was not the client meeting, because that I had to do. What gave was the gallery event, because that was a networking event. Would it have been nice to have gone? Yes. Could I have met the person I wanted to meet in person? Absolutely yes. Would that be a good opportunity for me? Yes. However, it was also even more important to me that I not cancel on my girlfriend for dinner and I get together with her, because I hadn't seen her in a while and a lot had happened in her life and I really wanted to catch up. So I chose not to go to the gallery event. And instead, I met my client at the construction site and then I went out to dinner. And I felt so much better by that decision for myself, because I put my life first and my relationships with my friends first. I did have a little work in there, but I cut back on the work. That's an example of how I put real life through this filter of life-work balance. The second thing that I talked about that I said is so important to me for personal wellness is making yourself a priority. And as a mom, that is very difficult to do, because you're a mom, you're potentially a wife or a spouse or a partner, you have a job, and then you also have yourself and your own well-being. And I find every woman that I speak to, especially executives and entrepreneurs, because we carry high power positions, it is a constant struggle between how do we be the best we can be in each one of those roles when there just are not enough hours in the day to fit all of those things in. And the number one lesson I have for all of those executives, because I was that executive, is if you do not make yourself a priority in your own life, you will eventually implode or explode and have a nervous breakdown. Because if you don't make yourself a priority and lead by example, no one else will. And it is a gift that we can give to our children and to other women that are below us and working their way up the ladder by showing them that they too can make themselves a priority. What does that look like in reality in my own life? That looks like things like making sure that I always have time to exercise. I work out 7 days a week. Sometimes it might only be for 20 minutes if I'm really busy, but I make that exercise time a priority, because I know that exercise, not only is it really good for my body, It's good for my mind, and it's good for my mindset, and it's good for my overall health. And I always feel so much better after a workout, no matter how long or hard it is, because I took that time to myself. And during that time, I focus on me time. So I might listen to music. I might listen to a podcast, especially when I go for a walk, I'll listen to podcasts. So I'm doing things that are helping myself, helping my personal inner growth and inner wellness, in addition to getting the exercise. Some other things that I do about making myself a priority: I journal and I meditate every morning. Some mornings I don't get to it. You can't do everything every single day. However, that means that I set my client meetings to start a little bit later in the day. That doesn't mean that I don't work late at night or don't have meetings sometimes on the weekends, because I do. But it means that me time for myself is really important. And that time for me to shut down my brain, relax, journal, spend some time in gratitude, spend some time in reflection, spend some time talking about my intentions to myself, even speaking them out loud. That time for myself is so incredibly important. And I make that a priority. And it manifests itself based on when I start client meetings and when I'm available to respond to emails and text messages. If my clients text me before 9 o'clock in the morning, chances are pretty good that I will not respond, because I'm making myself and my time a priority during that time. One of the other things I do in terms of making myself a priority is learning how to say no. That is very difficult when we wear all those hats that I talked about. Very hard to learn to say no. But with some practice of saying no, you can become better at saying no. Saying no to the things that are not must-dos, and saying no to the things that are not impactful, that aren't going to make you feel like you are contributing to something, that you feel like are making you a better person, a better mother, a better spouse, a better employee, and learning that it's okay to say no. And then the more you practice saying no, the easier it becomes saying no. The third thing that I like to talk about when it comes to personal wellness is continual learning. I have people say to me, "You must be Superwoman. I cannot believe that you are once again taking another course or learning something new." And I cannot tell you how important continual learning is. First of all, it's so important to be curious. There are podcasts out there just about this subject, and I love them. It's so important to be curious and to want to continually learn new things. It makes you interesting. It challenges yourself. By dedicating the time to learning new things, you're also making yourself a priority as well. Reading. I'm a huge proponent of reading. I'm a published author, so of course I am. I encourage everyone, read my book, grab it. It's called 2 Feet In, Lessons from an All in Life, available on Amazon in every format. But I'm a huge proponent of reading. I read every day in some capacity, reading self-help books, reading business books, and then also giving my brain a break and reading beach read novel to just relax and escape into someone else's imaginary world. So reading, super, super important. I'm going to have guests on the podcast that are going to talk about reading that are also authors. Many of my guests are also published authors and talking about their journeys being authors, and the importance of reading and how writing a book has changed their lives and how they are embracing wellness within. And much of that starts from their journey in writing, because it is therapeutic. Continual learning, courses. Sign up to take a course. So many courses are free, actually. Your local libraries have lots of different courses. Sign up to take a mastermind course in something that you're interested in. After COVID, there's so much that's still available on Zoom. Gabby Bernstein offers motivational programs all of the time that you can sign up for. They're short, they're great. I did one in the beginning of the year with her, and it was fantastic. It was a 21-day commitment to half an hour every day to really talking about mindset and manifestation and attracting what you want into your life and leveraging the power of the universe. There are so many courses. Continual learning also could expand to sports. Learn to play a new sport. Pickleball is all the rage here. I'm not doing it because I have an elbow that's not so great, but pickleball is all the rage. If I were going to take up a new sport, it would be pickleball. Download an app, try a new class, right? Pilates, bar class, the class app. That's my newest one that I've been trying. Really cool stuff. It's different. It's out there. It's a little bit edgy. It's a combination of movement, mindset, breath work, plus yoga and Pilates all combined. The app is called The Class. I'll put it in the notes. Something new and different to try. It challenges my mind and challenges my body. And another thing I do for continual learning, and if those of you who follow me on Instagram might have seen my video about this, I decided in January that I was going to learn how to play the piano. When I was younger, I was forced to take piano lessons, and I truly hated it. I hated my instructor. I hated taking lessons. So as soon as my mother told me that I didn't have to do it if I didn't want to, I quit immediately. And as a result of that, I didn't remember anything. I don't know how to play. I don't know how to read music. And I decided in January that I am so blessed to have my boyfriend's piano in my house and this beautiful baby grand piano. And since the piano was here, I was going to make the commitment to be able to learn how to play the piano. So I did. I asked on the local moms group if someone could recommend an instructor who could come to my house who has experience teaching adults. And I found the most incredible, lovely woman. The universe puts people in front of you that are meant to help us grow. And she is so lovely. We connect on a spiritual level so much. And not only that, she is so incredibly talented. Her voice and her skills and her patience in teaching me how to play the piano has been incredible. She just had a recital, which to me is the most terrifying, fearful thing, to go out in front of an audience in a crowd and play the piano. I think, post-traumatic stress from that as a child, and it was always so scary, and I always made mistakes and always felt terrible about myself at the end. She said I had to be part of the recital, and I decided I was going to do it because I kind of wanted to get over my fear of playing in front of other people, but also because I really wanted to support her and her small business and show other people that adults could learn new things. And I was so glad I did it. And did I make a few mistakes? I did. But in general, I played a song that was so meaningful to me, and I had worked so hard to learn it. And it's called Beautiful Things. And I love it. I use it in some of my recordings on Instagram, some of my shorts. And I was so proud of myself because I did actually do it. And I'm overcoming my fears. And I was setting an example to people in the audience that we're never too old to try to learn something new. And I have found that learning the piano has given back so much to me personally. Whenever I feel highly stressed, I always just escape to the sunroom to go and play the piano for 15 minutes. And I have to pay so much attention to this new skill, to reading the music and to how I'm playing, that my mind doesn't have time to worry about the things that I'm worried about and the things that are causing me stress. I found it is so therapeutic for me. And I have 3 dogs. And when I start to play, they all come running into the sunroom and just are so calm and so relaxed. And it's amazing how the beautiful music that's coming from this instrument just lowers everyone's stress level and brings everybody down a notch. It's so beneficial to everyone. And it helps my mindset. It helps me pause. And it also makes me feel so proud of myself that I can play things that I couldn't imagine playing. So continual learning. What is the way that you can find continual learning within your own life? Today, I've only talked about 3 things from personal wellness, and there are so many. I could have a whole another hour episode about personal wellness and the things that I do in my life. But I'm hoping that through my podcast guests, you'll learn a little bit more about some of those things that I do in my own life, things from meditating, journaling, nutrition, how I eat, cooking, sound baths. There's so many things that are so important for internal wellness and how you take care of yourself. You will learn more about that and my journey with that through the guests that I bring on the show. So I thank you so much for following along. This is the House of Jermar podcast where wellness starts within. I am honored to have you as part of my community. Welcome to my house, and thank you for joining me on my mission to empower 1 million women to live all in. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the House of Jermar podcast, where wellness starts within. We appreciate you being a part of our community and hope you felt inspired and motivated by our guest. If you enjoyed this episode, please write us a review and share it with friends. Building our reach on YouTube and Apple Podcasts will help us get closer to our mission to empower 1 million women to live all in. You can also follow us on Instagram at House of Jermar and sign up to be a part of our monthly inspiration newsletter through our website, houseofjermar.com. If you or someone you know would be a good guest on the show, please reach out to us at podcast@houseofjermar.com. This has been a House of Jermar production with your host, Jeanne Collins. Thank you for joining our house.